I hope everyone is doing well. I've got quite a lot of interesting points I want to discuss in this video. So in the last couple of videos, I've talked about what the students can expect to see in the Lord's Table meetings and the prayer meetings. In this video, I'm going to discuss some of the heavier Lord's Recovery student meetings and a few other points which could be of interest to the viewers. So I just want to briefly recap where we are in these videos. So first of all, the student will often be initially contacted by a campus worker. They will be invited back to the campus worker's house, and from there, a strong relationship will usually slowly develop between the campus worker and the student. As this relationship grows, the campus worker will start to reveal more and more about the Lord's Recovery movement to the student. They will probably start by inviting the student to a university campus meeting. Now, the messages given in these meetings will be taken from a ministry portion of Witness Lee. They will usually give the student a little handout or a piece of paper with bullet points on it, and 99% of these bullet points will be taken from the ministry of Witness Lee, and they will be reformatted to fit in with the student's mentality. And often a lot of these students will have absolutely no idea where this material has come from. A lot of the students will just get the impression that, this group's just a regular, everyday Christian group, which is definitely not the case. So, over time, the student will become more and more involved in these meetings, and it will eventually lead to the student being introduced into the wider Lord's Recovery meetings, including the Lord's Table meetings and the prayer meetings. During the table meetings, they will be introduced to the Holy Word for Morning Revival books, which are morning devotion books, which again have been almost solely taken from Witness Lee's ministry. And these books are just, again, they are reformatted for the members with the intention that they'll read the book every morning. So once you become a fully dedicated member of this group, you will be expected to read this material and often pressured into sharing what you have enjoyed during the meetings. And if you're a young student, they will be putting massive pressure on you to do this. I experienced this definitely. So during these meetings, they will be literally parroting from these books, and they will be explaining how they have applied Witness Lee's teachings into their lives. And also, a lot of them will talk in the same tone, the same pitch. It is very much robotic behavior. And also, like I mentioned in my last video, the student will be also introduced to the Lord's Recovery prayer meetings. And in these prayer meetings, the student will use what they have learnt from the campus worker, such as prayer reading, calling on the Lord, etc., and they will demonstrate these in the prayer meetings. And if the student is just sitting there quietly, observing the prayer meetings, they might be a bit shy, the campus worker will probably, nudge the student on the shoulder and encourage them, or more like force them to pray in front of everyone. And again, you will see a lot of robotic behavior in these meetings too. Most of them will be praying in the same tone, the same pitch. You will hear a lot of loud amens. There's a lot of heathen behavior. So over a period of time, the student will continue to grow in this group, and during this time, the student will probably be playing a very active role on their university campus. And once they're ready, they will go out by themselves or in a small group to find potential candidates for the Christians on Campus movement. And the campus work will actually train the students to do this. The student just can't go out by themselves and share the gospel of Jesus Christ to the university students. It's got to be in line with local church protocols or witness lead protocols. And you're literally taught how to do this step by step. And what will happen is that the student won't really be speaking from their heart. They will just be parroting step by step what they've been told to say. Also, they will often attempt to give the potential student candidate a small booklet, which will probably have a diagram in it. And this diagram will probably be titled "The Steps of the Process of the Triune God." I think you can actually find this on Google. And they will also try and get the student to repeat a local church prayer. And if the student does this, then they're saved. That's full salvation according to the local church. And they heavily endorse once saved, always saved. But they do believe in the 1,000-year reign, purgatory. But they don't call it purgatory. The leaders of the Lord's Recovery have said that, it's kind of like a witness lead summer school, which will be made up of all the lukewarm local church members and Christians not in the local church who haven't received the teachings of Witness Lee. Because according to Witness Lee, only the true members of the local church will be raptured, and everyone else will have to endure summer school, where they will extensively and solely learn his teachings. And also, it is very interesting that they will never tell the new prospective student two very important teachings of the local church. Firstly, they will never tell you their full version of the Trinity up front. And secondly, from what I witnessed, the little booklets that they give out will most likely be missing the final step of their process of what I talked about earlier. And this is the heresy of the church becoming God. And of course they hide this because they don't want to scare the student, so they sugarcoat their own beliefs in order to fit in with the student's mentality. And also, regarding their version of the Trinity, from what I can remember, they will present it something like this. They probably say that God is made up of three parts. First, God became the Father, then God became the Son, and then He became the Spirit. And then they might say something to the student like, do you know that you have a spirit, and your spirit is made to contain God's Spirit? And this is what Witness Lee has called the two spirits. And when I heard this, I thought, this sounds reasonably normal. I'd heard many times that the Holy Spirit enters into the believers of Christ. So, I initially thought it sounded okay. But it is unlikely that they will tell you their full version of the Trinity up front. Oh, it's very unlikely. And this is what they believe. They believe that each part of the Trinity coexists together. For example, they believe that Jesus is not just Jesus. They believe that Jesus is made up of three parts. So they believe that Jesus is equal to Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. Same with the Father. The Father is not just the Father. The Father is the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is equal to the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and the Father. And this sort of thinking leads to many, many, many problems. One of the problems being, you could say that, when Jesus died on the cross, was the Father in Jesus when He died on the cross? The local church might respond by saying something like, well, we can't understand everything there is to know about the Trinity. Yeah, and it is interesting because this version of the Trinity definitely has a modalism flavor in it. And that's no surprise because before Witness Lee started his own church, he used to be a oneness Pentecostal. So yeah, it's no surprise. And unfortunately, the student will never know these things up front. They will just get the impression that the Holy Spirit enters the believer, which is normal. But yeah, I do want to say, if you are a student and you think that you have come across a member of the local church, please search on Google the steps of the process of the Triune God. It's a little article, a little piece of writing, and you will find comments from Witness Lee, such as he said one day, quoting from Witness Lee, he said, "One day the Triune God entered into the womb of a human virgin." So he's saying that the Father and the Holy Spirit entered into the womb of the Virgin Mary. So yes, so this is how the student is taught to bring new members into the cult. They're taught to literally trick people into joining the cult. And a lot of the students doing this don't even realize what they're doing. Admittedly, even there's quite a few campus workers who are against these deceptive tactics, but they just go along with it because that's what they're told to do. So also, I want to talk about the young people's conferences. In New Zealand, a lot of the young people in these events tend to be very dedicated members of their Christians on Campus movement. And this is also a really good place for the student to meet a lot of like-minded people. And what will happen is that the student will probably start to gain a lot of connections with many different people in many different localities. And this in turn will strengthen the student's submission to the cult. And during these meetings, there will be a lot of group motivation through extreme chanting. As I said before, we see this in the prayer meetings and Lord's Table meetings, but it is taken to another level in the young people's conferences. It's very, very loud, very happy, and there's a lot of very strange behavior in general. Yeah, I think a lot of you probably know what I'm talking about. A lot of this has to do with Witness Lee's idea of enjoying the Lord as a person, even though that's found nowhere in the Bible. And this is really, I was thinking about this, and this is really just a tactic, but from Witness Lee used to suppress the mind and create a lukewarm, hippie, sin-friendly environment, which is absolutely rampant in this cult. So also, all of these messages during the conference will be again reformatted versions of Witness Lee's teachings, and they style this to fit in with the students' mentality. And also during these conferences, they might go out into public and they might actually hand out free pamphlets to gain a recovery version study Bible. Now, like I said in another video, you would very rarely see them handing out Witness Lee's materials to the student or anyone in general. But during these conferences, like I said, a lot of these students tend to be fully dedicated members of their Christians on Campus university. So the people running these conferences don't really need to be that deceptive during these conferences. They can just go full-on Lord's Recovery style. In contrast, if there was a lot of new perspective members at these conferences, they might need to play it a little bit more careful, otherwise problems could arise. Yeah, so So it will get to the stage where the Lord's Recovery movement will literally take over the student's life, and the campus workers' attitude towards the student will change completely too. For example, when there's a meeting on, it won't be, "Are you available tonight to come to the meeting, brother?" Instead, it will be, "We have a meeting tonight. See you there." That's just an example. Now also I just want to give my weekly schedule in this cult. This is what I can remember. So on Monday, I generally didn't have anything on Monday, but Tuesday I would meet my campus worker for a Bible study, and then I would go out after that to do gospel preaching with the trainees on the university campus. And then, on that same day, I would probably go to the prayer meeting as well. They had a prayer meeting every Tuesday night. Wednesday, I would sometimes have a lunch with a local church member, and then I would often go to the Christians on campus meeting, which was after lunch. And then I might do some more gospel preaching on the university campus. And then on that same day, there was often a children's meeting where you help out with the children, play games with them. Thursday was pretty similar to Tuesday. And Friday there was a big home meeting where I would often help cook. I would pick up people, drop off people. And then Saturday there was a manual labor service, helping out the church with manual labor, which I would sometimes do. There's a lot of stuff. And then Sunday was the big day. Sunday there was a Lord's table meeting. I'd often go and help set up the chairs, or I'd be ushering or doing something else. And then there'd be lunch after, and then that evening there would be a Sunday worship at the university campus for the students, where they would have a dinner as well. I was very busy, and there was always a lot of other stuff as well coming up. While I was doing all this, I was definitely neglecting many people, including my own family. And also, while I was in this cult, I was given a mission to try and get my family, and even my extended family, into this cult. Even though many people in my family were already meeting in other places, that's not good enough, according to the local church. And eventually I got to the stage where I became so involved in this cult that I eventually moved into the corporate living, which I briefly touched on in my last video. And thankfully, looking back, the corporate living was actually the beginning of my waking up process in this cult. And I'm going to talk about this in a future video. If I hadn't lived there, it's possible that I might still be in this cult now. So, I guess it shows that God puts us in bad situations for good reasons. Just because someone is suffering, it doesn't mean they're not prospering. So overall, once the student becomes a full member of this cult, it is also very likely that persecution will arise. Being in a group like this, it is almost a certainty that this will happen, and I'm going to speak about this in my next couple of videos. I'm going to speak about how they trap the student in this cult, so that they psychologically are forced to stay. They can't leave. There's a lot of points around this, so it's going to take me a while to discuss this. Also, in terms of persecution, it used to be that the Lord's Recovery sued everyone who called them a cult, even though 1 Corinthians chapter 6 says don't sue fellow Christians. But apparently this verse doesn't apply to Witness Lee's church. Witness Lee has written a very, very bad and very, very weak piece of writing called a lawsuit contending for the truth. And in this piece of writing, he will pit 1 Corinthians chapter 6 against Acts chapter 20 and Acts chapter 21, where there were circumstances surrounding the Apostle Paul. Yeah, it is very, very bad. To be honest, it's an absolute joke. And I encourage everyone to read this. And also this piece of writing is taken from the book How to Speak for God, written by Witness Lee. So yeah, if you guys read this, you will get a good indication of how bad and how manipulative Witness Lee was. He wasn't from God. He was a classic false teacher. Now, I think I will also talk about Hank Hanegraaff's "We Were Wrong" article. The Lord's Recovery exhibit a huge amount of pride in this article. So yeah, I think I'll talk about this. So thank you so much for watching, and please share these videos with people who need it, because there are a lot of people who need this. So thank you, and God bless.